South Korea is situated on a peninsula that is connected to the world's largest continent, Asia. According to Koreans, the foundation for the country's culture and arts is a Korean identity, a combination of traits associated with continental and island peoples. Throughout Korea's history, its people have come in contact with other major Asian cultures and have accepted their different religions and traditions. The country has developed what natives call the centrality of the Korean culture. Under such regional influence, Koreans are thought of as a peaceful yet diverse culture that has created several variations of their own identity. Although they do have several different dialects, Koreans mostly speak and write the same language throughout the country, which has been a catalyst for creating a strong national identity. In the capital of Seoul, which has a population of 10.1 million, a standard dialect is used so that language does not impede day-to-day operations. This language is derived from the Altaic alphabet, which includes the Turkic and Mongolic families. The alphabet was created in the 15th century by King Cheong and was originally meant only for the upper class to use. The alphabet's name is Hangul and includes 10 vowels and 14 consonants, which is grouped several ways to create different words. It is considered easy to learn and write, resulting in Korea's high literacy rate. At the end of 2007, South Korea's population was 48.5 million, with a population density of about 498 people per square kilometer. In the 1960s, its population began to grow steadily at an annual rate of 3%. Rapid industrialization and the migration of rural residents to cities in the 1970s contributed to the large amount of growth. In 2005, the rate was 0.5% and is expected to further decline to 0.02% by 2020. The Korean government, like other Asian countries, does not encourage large families, which accounts for the decrease in growth. The number of foreigners in South Korea makes up about 2% of its population. Chinese makes up over 44%, Americans hold 12%, and the Vietnamese make up 6%. The remaining people are mainly from Japan, Taiwan, and Indonesia. The main religion is Buddhism, and its government is a democracy with their president elected to a single 5-year term by direct popular vote.
Economically, South Korea is one of the most thriving democracies of Asia. The country is currently the United States' 7th largest trading partner and is the 13th largest economy in the world. This republic country holds the second highest savings rate in the developed world. South Korea's economic growth over the past few decades has been vast. 4 decades ago, South Korea's gross domestic product per capita was equivalent to levels in poorer countries in Africa and Asia. Then, in the early 1960s, many economic policies began transitioning along with the rapid population growth. These policies focused on exports and labor-intensive light industries. The positive effect of these changes led to a swell of industrial expansion. The existence of close government and business ties involving direct credit, sponsorship, and strong labor effort of import restrictions were also attributed to the success. The newly remodeled government broke barriers to currency reform, flexible economic planning, and strengthened financial institutions. This growth continued into the late 1980s and even into the 1990s through South Korea's fiscal and financial policies toward the promotion of chemical industries, consumer electronics, and automotives. Then, the Asian financial crisis of 1997 and 1998 rattled weaknesses in South Korea's developmental structure. These flaws included massive foreign borrowing and high debt-to-equity ratios. As a result, GDP growth slumped to 6.9%. The country's currency depreciated, and there was a threefold unemployment increase. The situation caused the country to implement reforms that were aimed at the financial, public, and corporate sectors. It served to increase trade and business activities between South Korea and the rest of the world. South Korea has also implemented many market-based reforms. These include steps to liberalize foreign investment and trade barriers. The South Korean currency, the won, has continued to slide downward at a slow pace since the Asian financial crisis. The declining domestic demand shows abnormal growth because South Korea has been restricted by the need to keep interest rates high enough to contest against inflation. A depressed global economy, with consumers burdened by higher prices, has weakened demand for South Korean exports, limiting competitive gains. From 2003 to 2007, annual growth was approximately 4.5%. South Korea's 2008 GDP per capita was estimated at $26,000, and the country is now part of the so-called trillion-dollar club of world economies. However, with inflation increasing, the price of oil and food costs rising, and the September 2008 U.S. financial crisis beginning, South Korean stock fell 40% for the year. Compared to the U.S. dollar, the won has fallen 31% since February 2009. Many critics consider the financial crisis as the largest cause of the decline in the value of the won. Although the country is thriving, the risk of South Korean economic downturn remains imminent due to its aging population and structural complications. Some economic inconsistencies are South Korea's labor regulations, the necessity for better relations between management and workers, lack of regulatory transparency, and the country's underdeveloped financial markets.
40% of South Korea's economy is contingent on exports. Some of their most lucrative exports include LCD panels, mobile phones, televisions, motor vehicles, steel, ships, and petrochemicals. Its top imported commodities consist of machinery, oil, steel, transport equipment, organic chemicals, and plastics. Agricultural business activities have shifted ever since the country became more industrialized and labor costs rose. South Korea ceased production of numerous crops and instead imported them. Any agriculture produced locally relies heavily on government subsidies and protectionist trade policies. In 2007, South Korea exported $371.5 billion and imported $356.8 billion. $14.8 billion of those exports were in agricultural products. These exports included things such as corn, meat, hides, soybeans, milling wheat, and cotton. South Korea's main trading partners are the United States, the European Union, China, Australia, and Japan. Many globally renowned South Korean corporations such as Samsung, Hyundai Motor Company, and LG Electronics have rapidly grown to become world leaders in their respective industries. Samsung Group is the world's largest corporation and a leading consumer electronics brand. South Korea now grants duty-free access to imports of 80 commodities from at least 48 countries. Its main trade policy instrument is the customs tariff, which is also an important source of tax revenue. Since the customs tariff is so important, it involves 125 different types and levels of duty and is a highly complex instrument. South Korea has also opened its services sector to foreign investment, most notably in the financial, telecommunications, broadcasting, maritime, and air transportation sectors. However, investors' weakening confidence receded following U.S. investment bank Lehman Brothers' failure, and foreign investors have withdrawn capital from South Korea at an accelerated pace. Investors also cite inflexible labor laws as another hindrance to foreign direct investment. The vast departure of capital has been further encouraged by an account deficit of $12.6 billion from January through August, mainly the result of a failing trade surplus caused by the climbing price of raw materials. Reform measures have gone into place but are still a work in progress. Despite enduring non-tariff barriers that compromise overall freedom of trade, the economy scores above the world average in business freedom, government size, monetary freedom, and investment freedom, financial freedom, property rights, and freedom from corruption.